Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and I am delighted to be here with you today on the Breaking Free Show. We have a really lovely gentleman here with us today. I mean, I'm ready to call him a kid because he's 22, but he's more than a kid. He's a wise soul. And I'm going to introduce my guest to you in a minute. But before I do, I want to say hi to Amnan.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like my face is just like smiling. I don't know why. It just
You
seems
are
like it.
smiling, which is good.
I mean, it
Keep
doesn't. I
smiling.
know it feels like it's like just like staying there, won't move. Anyway, you doing all right?
Doing just fine.
Yeah,
You
I am. You had a nice weekend.
have a glorious
Yeah, it was
weekend.
nice, wasn't it?
This is like
Spring,
September,
fall.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in North Carolina where the weather has been like 90 plus 97, 98, 99, 100. Humidity is crazy out the kazoos. And this past weekend, it was like I went swimming on Saturday, came out, and it was cool. It was like a little
Yep.
breeze. I needed a towel. Very odd, but very well needed, I would say. Yeah,
Yes,
right?
we deserve it.
We do. Okay, so I want to thank you all for being here today. You know, if you follow us every week, that we have just great guests on, and if you don't, I just want to tell you we do, and it's just exciting because we get to talk to people from all over the world doing all kinds of things. Some of them are famous, some of them are not famous yet. Some of them don't want to be famous. They're just doing something that is important for all of us, for us to listen to, understand, process, somebody who gives us permission to do something, somebody who has a new tool, a technique, a strategy, a know how, a voice, a mission, a vision that when we hear it, it's going to change our lives. And before I get started, I just want to let you know that you can go into our chat anytime you want. You can put your name next to our video and be in there. You can call us during the show if you have a landline or a cell phone, 919-518-9773. Or you can come in on Skype voice. So that is computers, that's the number, and then the number two, K voice, computers 2K voice. So here we are. We're ready to go. So I'm going to read you this bio, which I don't normally read bios. I usually have my guests tell about themselves, but today I'm going to read this one. So Rayfield Walker was born in 1994 in Georgetown, Guyana, and migrated to New York at the age of 15. During childhood, he suffered years of horrifying and repeated physical, sexual, and verbal abuse at the hands of his ashamed, closeted father, relatives, and neighbors. Despite being illiterate until the age of 12, Walker fell in love with the arts in New York and then wrote and published a memoir, Out of the Jungle, by the age of 22. The book details his traumatic experience growing up in Guyana, as well as honors the great opportunities he found in New York. Today, Walker works to honor the memory of his grandparents who sacrificed to provide peaceful shelter and instilled the strong moral sense that he lives by today. And he is delightful. So let me welcome Rayfield to our show. Hey there.
Hey Marilyn, I would really want to thank you for having me onto the show.
It is our pleasure. It is my pleasure. I am grateful that you found us, that you reached out, and that we can do this together. Because I spoke to you a little bit ago, a while back on Skype, when I was getting to know him, and I'm like, oh my God, he is an absolute sweetheart, and he gets to have everything. He gets to have the kind of life that you say in the book, I want this, I want this, I want this, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. He gets to have all those things. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So when we talk, and I, we could talk about a lot of things, and we could talk about everything. So I want to just kind of um, go back a little bit into your childhood and just tell us some things about, like, did you ever live with your mother?
Yes, I actually live with my mom. After my mom gave birth to me, leaving the hospital, at that time I wasn't like my mom just giving birth to me. I left the hospital and I was with her at my dad's mother home. I was in their home, and I was constantly taken to the hospital because for one reason or another, I was getting sick. I was being abused there. They wasn't feeding me, and back and forth from the hospital. And it just happened one time. My mom took me to her mother's home, and that was the first time I've spent 2 weeks without being sick. 2 weeks straight without being sick, and they took me back down to Georgetown. We're at my dad's mom home, and I got back sick again. Went back into the hospital. Come out back. Went back into the hospital again, and they took me to Supply, where my mom's lives, and I wasn't sick, So my grandmother, now she just suggested and say, you know what, he's gonna stay in Supply here. And since then, I've been living with my grandparents, which is my mother's mom.
How old were you then?
I was, I think, 9 months old. 9 months old.
9 months old. Until the age of till you were 9 months old, you were at your dad's, and you were just always getting sick.
Yes, yes.
How old was your mother?
My mom was 17 years of age.
And your father?
My father was 18 years of age.
18.
Yeah.
And so you talk about you were illiterate, so you didn't go to school or anything.
I was technically sent to school by my grandparents because my grandmother, she worked 2 jobs. She used to clean, and my grandfather, he was a sales associate in a market, in a famous market that's called the Stabrook Market. It's one of the largest market in Georgetown, Guyana. And I was sent to school, but my grandparents, the money that they worked for, sometimes my grandfather, he didn't work for as much. My grandmother, her money didn't cut to pay the bills. So little things like bread and butter and things that needed to be in the house, I used to go to school, wait until the teachers marked my attendance, and then I would leave school. Because my grandmother was checking with the school just to make sure I was there, because she knew I used to want to, like right after school, she knew I would forget to do homeworks. I would go and work for these rich neighbor in faraway village and earn a few bucks to buy bread, buy butter, so it saved them because there were sometimes my grandmother had to buy things to eat because things to eat is much more important than, it's not so severely when the lights cut off because a lot of times the light cut off, we had to go miles for water. So I figured if I could earn a few dollars, just to buy those things, it will save her pocket so she could keep the light on, or keep the TV running.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I was, at that time I was 8 years old. 7, 8 years old. Yeah.
So where did she think you got the money from?
Well, is the she knew I went after school, but she never knew I leave school early in the morning just to get that done all day. So it was more coins earned.
Gotcha.
Because she said it's fine. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but you just got to make sure you go to school and get that done first, and then you go into your little side hustle. So.
And where was your mother during this time?
My mom, she was living with at that time she was living with her boyfriend over the other side of the river. That was like a faraway village.
The other side of where?
Well, we live on the east bank of Demerara, which is on the east side of the Demerara River, and she lived on the west bank.
Okay, so her boyfriend was not your father?
No.
Okay. And then, so when you were living with your grandparents, your mother's parents, did you see your father?
Yeah, I actually, the way I see him is my mom would come and visit, and I think I think maybe she got contact from my father's parents to, where's Ungo? Because at that time my nickname was Ungo. They said when I was small I used to cry and say Ungo, so that's how I got that nickname, Ungo. So it's like, they were saying, I'm not saying Ungo. Where's Ungo? So my mom used to come to visit us in Supply, and she would say, I want you to go visit your dad. You need to build a relationship with your dad. And she would take me there. And when she took me, for reasons, he just got angry, and it's like the smallest thing I would do. Because I remember one time my stepmom, like the first scene where the abuse started, my stepmom had cooked beans. She had cooked baked chicken, mashed potato, and gravy. But I wasn't familiar with the beans. So I threw out the beans after eating the mashed potato and the gravy and the chicken, the baked chicken. And my little sister, she told him, because she went and told him, she's like, Daddy, um, Junior didn't eat out the peas. He threw it out. He threw it out. He threw it in the garbage, and um, he took his belt off. He asked me if I did it. He took his belt off, went into the bedroom, come out, and he just started beating me all over my skin. Yeah.
So but he was he the one primarily that was beating you as a child?
Yes, primarily yes.
Who else
Yes.
beat you up as a child?
Um, no, nobody else.
Oh,
Nobody else.
okay.
He was the only person. Yeah.
And then and who sexually abused you?
That was my neighbors who was close friends with my uncle, because my uncle had these friends that he hung out with, um, and close relatives.
So, and how old were you when you started getting sexually abused?
Well, that was right after. I remember the first time it happened, which occurred with the relatives. That was right after my third, fourth time of visiting my father. Because I used to visit my father on during the week, and on the weekends I would go to supply. So after the third week of visiting back supply, after I started visiting my dad, it happened. I roughly think that was between the age of 4 and 5, 4 and 5 years.
So, what were you thinking? I mean, and I don't know what you can be thinking at 4 or 5, but did you have any memories of how you felt back then?
I know definitely I was afraid to talk about it. I was definitely afraid to tell anyone because my grandparents, not mostly my grandparents, but my uncle, at that time like they were young, teenage, growing up to be young adults, and this term that is used in the West Indies, that is the term of batty boy, that and it's relate to a man who have sex with another man, and if anything of the sort that is come in contact, it kind of like shows like a scorn. Hence why my dad was in the closet and he was scared to portray and show who he really was, because this thing was looked down at. Nobody wanted to have nothing to do with you. So I know I was just afraid to talk, because I'm always hear my uncle saying, if he was to ever hear any of his family member to get in contact with anything of the sort of in that situation, he would he would cut them off. If he have to kill them, it's possible.
Your
And at
father
that
would do
time,
this? Wait a minute, I have to understand this. So,
no,
oh,
my
your
uncle,
uncle.
that's
Okay.
uncle, yeah, my uncle, because that's the when it first happened, it was in our village in Supply. That's the relative who is my uncle's friend. But my uncle would always say, this is what he would do. He would kill that person, if he have to demolish them out of his family, demolish them out of his life. He would do whatever he has to do, because there's no tactics or incident or any practice that he wants to be involved in. So, and at that time, like, I used to come home from school, and I always used to be with my uncle, and I would always listen to music with my uncle. We would always have a good time. So I felt like if I had told him that, it would have cut everything off and chaos would have happened. So I kept it all to myself.
So your uncle also abused you. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
but that abuse came through. That came to a Florida. That was in a Florida situation.
What kind of situation?
So the abuse, the sexual abuse, it repeated. It's like seven times,
Okay.
but the seventh time it was actually with a friend of my uncle's.
And were these all men?
It wasn't all men. It was just three men and one female. 3 men and one female.
And so when this was happening, you didn't tell anybody.
I didn't tell anybody.
And then, so when did you finally tell somebody?
I told somebody, my mentor who put me onto writing a book. He was the first person I told.
So you never, and that was when you were already like 20.
I was 16. I was 16 years old. I was
16.
16. No, I'm lying. 17. 17. I was 17 years of age.
Oh, so you didn't tell anybody. You held this to yourself
Yeah.
until you were 17, and that's when it
Yeah.
came out?
Yeah. That. But the list. This is how it actually came out. Because when it happened, when it actually happened, when it was occurring, yeah, it was traumatizing. But as I got older, I buried it in my mind because it wasn't something that in my country that I could have talked and spoken about. And when I came to the United States, it wasn't it then raised up. I always had a problem because going into a bathroom with like going into a changing room with a bunch of male, it always made me felt uncomfortable. So
Mm.
those were situations that I avoid. But when I met Amos Poe, who's the guy that really pushed me to writing
What's
the
his
book,
name again?
Amos Poe.
Amos
Amos
Poe?
Poe. Yeah, he was one of the first punk filmmakers of New York City. He featured on a great film that's called Alphabet City. Um, it's and he's also a professor at NYU. He's a film professor.
How do you spell his last name, Rayfield?
Poe.
Poe. Amos Poe. Okay.
Yes, and I actually met him to my stepmom's to my aunt. I actually met him to my aunt, and it, the reason how I got in contact with her is through all of the abuse with my dad. She heard, and it's like everybody heard, and they were like, okay, what become of this boy that used to be abused by his father, you know? And she actually met me for the first time, and she said, "What are you doing? How is things with you and your dad?" And I told her, "We don't speak." She
Right.
said to me, she said, "How are you doing in school?" So I said, "I'm preparing to go to college." And she said, "What are you interested in?" I said, "I'm interested in film." And it just happened that
Mhm.
she was familiar with Amos Poe when she'd worked for him. She had babysit his kids, and
Okay, well
she gave me his
let's hold
number.
on for a second. Let's kind of catch everybody a little bit up to date before we get into
Okay,
the because this is a big part of your story. So before you do that, I want to
okay,
back up a second.
okay.
So you're in uh, um, Guyana and you are abused by your, family
My
members
family members,
and then other relatives, neighbors,
relatives. Yeah,
and your
yeah,
father pretty much physically abuses you, right?
yeah, yes,
And at some point, your father has a wife, right? How
yes.
old were you when your father married the woman who was your stepmother?
I was I remembered I remember my sister had told me they were leaving Guyana to go to the United States, and that was the age 12, and at the same time they got married. So I would say the age 12.
At age
At age
12.
12.
And
Yes.
then you came to the United States at what age?
At the age of 15. That was in
15.
yes, that was in the year of 2010. Yes.
Okay. And so before you left um, Guyana, where was your mother?
My mom, she was still living with her boyfriend over at that time you could have considered him as um a child father because she had
A
given birth
child
to
what?
my I know I said at that time you could have considered her to 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 be for him to be your child father because at that time my mom had given birth to my younger sister.
Um, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So your father and your stepmom are in New York City, right?
Yes.
And so what happened for them to to bring you into New York? How did that happen?
Well, my stepmom had actually got through with her father, who put in for her, and knowing, and she had given me this opportunity because she said to me, she said, you know, numerous of times in Guyana where I used to visit my father as a little kid, and I used to being put in the cupboard, being put in the barrel, um, after being beaten with my clothes off. Um, he would lock me in the cupboard, and she would take me out because he would put me in the cupboard and say, you're not, don't let me see you leave this cupboard, or else it's gonna happen much worse. And she would take me out, and once he come home, she would put me back in, just to make him paint an impression that I was in the cupboard all day. And seeing all that I've been through, she said she wanted to give me the opportunity to come here to better myself, to be somebody. And and she put in for me, and I started getting my documents. And one thing she said to me, I'll never forget it. She said, knowing that that you come into America now, you have to learn how to read, because at that time I couldn't have read. And she said, because when you come to America, you got to go to school, and it's important for you to know how to read, because you can't stay home, you can't go and work for rich people or these things that you tell me that you're doing. And I actually started like looking through the newspapers. At that time, I was picking corn. They used to tell me, because I used to pronounce words, and I would say the words really slow. I used to be bullied, because they would make fun of me. And when I came here, and I was attending Brooklyn College Academy, is where I first learned how to understand what I was reading. I could have read, but I wasn't able to understand what I was reading. And how that came about. This woman at the school, she helps kids that migrated from the next country that has a problem with the language, that need extra help on tests and stuff like that. Um, she she had me read the newspapers, look words up that I didn't understand, take those same words, make sentence with those words, and that's where
That's
that's
how
when
you
I
learned.
started. That's how I learned.
So let me ask you something before we get on with that. I just want to go back a second. How common in Guyana was it for children like you to be abused like you?
Oh, it's very common, because it's an issue that that develops from. I would say it's like a cycle, because you have young kids that's being abused, and then you got these young kids growing up to being adults. And it might be a situation of an uncle or an aunt, and you leave your kids with them, and something happened, and you never find out until the kid is big and then ready to talk about it. So that's how it happened. It happened, very common, very very common,
And
very common.
and why is it so that people, I mean, why are people being so abused? Why are children being abused? What's the cause? Do you think you know?
I don't quite know. I could be wrong, but um, in my expectation, the checking in back with where and how it occurred with me the first time it started occurring, I would say because of the condition that we was living in, the poverty. Because my friends, my uncle's friends, that he used to, when he was going over there, he used to take me, and we would sit down and we would watch TV, because at that time we had our lights was off, we didn't have TV access, and they used to get food and stuff like that that we were struggling to get, like 2 slices of bread for the morning, and we didn't know what we was eating for the rest of the day. And my uncle would take me over, and his friends, and they had all these fancy chocolates, because their parents was living in the United States. They used to send back barrels, so it was it was like life in London there. So we just used to go there and chillax. And sometimes my uncle won't be home, but since my uncle take me over there, I think everything is good. We're all cool, and I would go and sit there. And I remember the first time he told me, I told him, I said, you're not supposed to do things like that, because my uncle, he doesn't like people who do things like that. And he said, well, I don't think you want to tell him, because I'm going to stop you from coming here. You won't get to see the TV. You won't get to anything to eat, and your uncle would be rid of you. So I would say it could be poverty. It could be poverty.
Uh-huh. But your uncle also abused you sexually, right?
Yes, yes.
But knowing that other people were doing it, he wouldn't have. I mean, what would you were going to tell him? Tell him what? I,
Say that again.
no, okay. So maybe I didn't understand. So if you told your uncle what was going on in his house, he would stop you from
Yes.
coming. But he was also abusing you, right?
No, it's the uncle that was abusing me wasn't the uncle that I was growing with. It's
Oh,
it's like it's like a term that we use in Guyana. Whereas like if you grew up with this person, like my uncle best friend, he used to come, he used to visit and stuff like that. And I would consider him as like you have to it's, for that level of respect, you have to, you could consider him as
Okay.
your uncle.
Okay.
And because it was like my uncle's best friend.
I see. Okay. All
That's
right.
yes.
All right. So before we get on, I just want to remind everybody you are more than welcome to call in 919 or you can Skype in with us at voice. Skype, that's computers, that's plural, computers, the number 2, K voice, and we can take you in there and love to hear from you if you're a family member or a friend, anybody. If you want to talk to Rayfield, come on in. And then also you can come in into our chat and ask questions and comment from there. So, your stepmother,
Yes.
living with your father in New York, was instrumental in bringing you to New York. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did your father help, or she did it all by herself?
He helped. He
He
definitely
helped?
helped. Yes.
Okay. So he helps you come to New York and you're staying with them?
At that time, my stepmom and my dad had already separated. Um, my s- well, my stepmom is like the shareholder of the home. She works. They all have this joint account. So I would say she stand a major role because um, she gave them money. He put in the labor. He was the person who did the labor. What financially, she was the person who was paying for the passport to get done, paying for the documents to be signed. So in that time, but when I came because I had signed to my dad. I came and I had to stay with him, and that's where the abuse it continued. Yeah,
Physical abuse.
physical abuse. Yes,
And that was when you were 12, 13,
I was
12,
no, I was 15,
15 by then. Okay.
15,
How long did
15.
it take you to fill out the paperwork and get to New York?
That took a while.
Took
That
a
took
while.
that took that took since they left
Mhm.
Guyana, and while I was like age 12. Yeah, it took since then. Yeah,
Wow.
I remember they were.
How did you stay positive?
I always dreamed of, I would always like look up, I would go to the internet. I remember I used to go to the internet a lot. The internet is like a location, whereas, in Guyana, where you could go, you could make phone calls overseas, or you could use computer, because not everybody has computers in their home. So I used to go to the internet. Um, I would pay a certain amount of money, and I would look up different parts of New York City, and that inspired me because I was like, I said, someday I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna be something great, somebody great,
And you
and that of
are.
itself,
And you are.
that of itself,
And you are.
yeah,
You really are. So your stepmom and your dad are separated, and you come and you
there's
live with your dad, right?
yes,
And the abuse continues, but you're getting
yes,
older, so you're
yes,
about to fight back, right?
yes. And I remember one time I raised my hand at him, and my stepmom told me, to always show respect, and um, after a while, I got tired and I ran out. I went to her home, and
Uh,
I've been there for time and time after time. I remember I went to school, and the school thought I was with my dad, and I'm just putting it along. Yeah, I'm at my dad, and yeah, everything is fine at home, because they realized why is he even to school late? Because my school is in Brooklyn. I'm all the way in the Bronx. That's like 2 hours away. So
so
you know,
who lived
um,
in Brooklyn?
my dad lived
Okay.
in Brooklyn.
So your dad lived in Brooklyn, your stepmom was in the Bronx, but you went to school
Yeah.
in Brooklyn.
Yes.
So did you go from the Bronx to Brooklyn every day?
Every day for 3 years. Yeah, for
How
three
long
years.
did it take you to get from the Bronx to Brooklyn?
Well, yeah, an hour and a half if the train is running express. If the train is running local, which most times it did because it was rush hour during the morning of school and work, that took 2 hours
To get there,
to get there, to get to school.
and then 2 hours to
Back,
get back.
2 hours to get back.
Okay, and this was high school?
And this was high school, yes.
And so Brooklyn Academy, was that a private school?
No, it was an early college high school. It was actually an early college
How
high
did you
school.
get into that school?
My dad had known someone. Um, my dad had known someone in the form of the education office, and they recommended that school. And um, I went to that school, and I remember I was my guidance counselor, who was really close with me. Um, he said, just for the sake of you not continuing to fail, because I remember that time my overall average was 17. It was
17?
17, 17.
Uh-huh.
And he said to me, he said, we're gonna have to put you into school that's much more with the lower standards, because this school is an early college high school. The work is too hard, and you're not. And I said, after years, after terms upon terms of failing, I said to him, I said, just give me one more chance. All I need to do, I'm now learning how to read and understand what I'm reading. All I just need to understand this work, and I promise you, I'm gonna do good. And he said, I don't know, but he said, I'm gonna give you one more semester, one more term, and I've taken that 17 average up to 60, and he said it's improved, but it's still not fully improved because you need a 75 to pass. And I said, just give me another term, and he said, okay. And I turned that 60 into 65. The following term, I turned that 65 into 70, and then I received most improved students for math, most improved student for English, most improved student for almost every subject. And then I raised that 70 up to 75, from 75 to 80. And then I started taking the college credits, and I got 90. I got a 90. I remember my first college credits, I got an A minus. And from then it was bare A's in my college classes, and I graduated with 4 college credits. And I was one of the most improved students within the 4 years of going to the school. So, and I received the Phoenix Award. It was one of the Phoenix Award. It was like a gold award, and it was for the most improved student throughout the whole school year. And thank you.
It's nice to have some little effects every now and then. Wow. So what did you do to learn so fast? What did you do?
Um, I was scared. I was feared. I
Yeah.
feared a lot. I feared if I didn't become somebody that could have provided for myself, because I was looking at the situation. I left my dad home. I was in my stepmom's home. Sometimes my dad said, "You have to come back." And when I go back, the abuse continued. And I said to myself, I said, it can't keep continuing happening like this. I gotta focus on my education. I gotta be somebody so I could provide for myself, you know. And I fear that if I didn't succeed, that it would end up I would have to end up going to my sister. I would end up going to my mom and being with people them that I didn't like, you know. And I not really that I didn't like, but people that I didn't feel comfortable being with.
Yeah.
So the more, and I realized the more I appreciate and look at the situation and the schooling and how I'm willing to learn and open up my minds into to new things. I was learning, and I said, it's not that hard, you know, when I thought it was super hard, you know. And I realized it's just that because I've started some certain things at a late age that I should have started a while ago, that's why it seemed hard. But now, you know, I'm really impressed at myself too, you know, for
You should be.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, but somebody asked me like 2 days ago. They said, with all what you're getting, what would you get coming your way? They said, they said, are you happy? I said, I'm appreciative of what I have, you know, and I'm getting into a place where I'm going to be happy, because I've told them I've seen my grandparents struggle, you know, throughout my whole life. I've seen they struggle to take care of me, to feed me, and to put food on the table. And I promised my grandmother I would come here, and I'm gonna be somebody. I'm gonna do what I got to do to become successful, so I could take her out of that struggle. And she died in that struggle. She passed away 2 years ago, and she said the last thing she said that she said to me. She said, "All I just want you to do is be the best version of yourself, and I want you to also." Because I told her I was working on my story, and I told her I wanted to inspire people. She said, whatever you want to do, and once it's a positive message that you're sending out for folks that have been in your situation, and you could be a voice for them, she said, then go for it. And you know, that was a dying wish, you know. So I want to stick to that, and just to stay focused, just to make sure, I could be a voice of people that's been through the same situation, that's afraid, that's in a situation where they can't talk for themselves, because of their situation, and continue to motivate, and inspire.
That's all we can do.
That's all
That's
we could do.
that's all we can do. So do you live with your stepmom now?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually living with my stepmom right now.
And your father actually, am I correct in saying that your father actually is bisexual?
Yes, yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Right. Okay. All right. So, um, okay. So we're gonna catch ourselves up to date now. Okay. And again, I want everybody to know, this is a beautiful man. This is a beautiful story. This is what it's all about. This is the hope. This is the present. This is the future. This is real, right? This is what's real. This is what we can do. I mean, there's so much stuff going on all the time that we give a lot of energy to. And we a lot of times think that's it. It ain't it. It can be it if that's what you choose, but you can choose something else, just like Rayfield saying, it's easy. It's a lot easier than you think. So we want to continue with the story, but at the same time, I also welcome anybody to call in. Here's a question for you, okay? From Chris. What was the most challenging part of the book for you to write?
And I was actually going to get to this, but I actually paused and I lost my thought. But thanks for bringing up that question. And that was Chris, right?
Yes.
Okay. The most challenging part after I met, I don't know if you remember me saying, after I got Amos Poe's number from my aunt, and I was there to contact him, and I met with him. I sat down and we was watching. He was watching all my works that I was doing, my artworks, my drawing, my paintings, and my poems. And he said, "What are you thinking about doing next?" I said, my aunt told me that you're a film professor at NYU, and I would love to get into that school because I love film. I want to screenwrite, I want to direct, and I want to act. And he said, so what you do? He said, well, you could use your work to get in there. And I said, I don't know, because I said my academics is kind of low. He said, don't worry about it. He said, and look at you. You got a nice story. You came from Guyana. You could talk about how the struggles there and how coming to America changed it, and your view of the American dream. And I said, yeah. And I started writing that essay. I wrote 5 pages, and I stopped when I reached to the part where the sexual abuse started. And I went back to Amos. That's how come he was the first person I told. And I said to him, I started explaining that to him, and he said, well, I'll tell you, it's you're a very unique person. And I laughed when he told me that because nobody ever tell me I was unique. He said you have a unique story, and he said just let it all out. And he said, but before you do, he said, I want you to write a book. I said, a book? I said I could barely write a proper essay. He said, don't worry about it. He said, you just write. And I went home and I continued writing that essay. I wrote it. Actually wrote 15 drafts of this book. This book, Out of the Jungle, it was actually 15 drafts, because one thing after the next, I was talking about the sexual abuse and I didn't put it in properly. And Amos looked at it and he's like, you're leaving out stuff here. And I continued to write. I continued to write and write. And I forgot that I was writing an essay, and I continued to write the book. And I turned out those 5 pages of essay that I was supposed to submit into NYU to get into the school. And that's how the book continued. And that was the most difficult part. And time after time, as I got from one sexual abuse to the next, it paused me. I was writing my eyes out. I would write like at least like 2 pages per day, and 2 pages a day. And once I got to those sexual abuse part, I wouldn't write for a week. I would just breeze off and say, you know what, I can't do that. I gotta go back to that, and that gotta be a part of itself. So yeah, that was the most difficult part. And I just felt like talking about it, and Amos was really he was really there, because when I felt as though just the way my uncle had viewed the situation. I thought people would have viewed it in the same way. People would have been disgusted at me, and but after publishing this book and all of the reviews that I was getting, and now people really support me, it was really nothing felt better. Nothing has ever felt better. And that's why I want to be a voice for people, regardless of how it looks, how it seems. People out there, there's a lot of kids that's still going through the same situation, and they're in a situation that I was in that they couldn't talk about it. Not that they can't read; they probably could read, but it's just that if they talk about it, their life could be in much jeopardy than my life is, and I want to be that hope. But it's important because it's not just talking about it. It's not just talking and say you want to be hope, but when people could see you've been through a certain situation, and it's like everybody, as bad as it sounds, everybody needs a step by step of inspiration, a step by step. You can't just tell somebody to do something, you gotta show that people want a way out, a way out to say, okay, this is how you do it. And with this story and showing them how I came up and how I was dedicated and structured to myself and structured to my dream, that's the only way out. You gotta be true to who you are, and who you want to be.
Is there? I mean, have you ever felt like you've been chosen, like that because you weren't. I mean, you came close to dying. I'm sure, many times.
Yeah.
Being in situations or doing things as a young boy and stuff. Have you ever sat back and thought that you might have been chosen for the role that you're playing in life? Have you ever thought about that?
Could I tell you something?
Yes, you
Everything
can.
that everything that's happening right now, my grandmother she foretold me it. She told me, she said, you're gonna be an inspiration to people. I was young. She is very spiritual. She didn't tell me I was writing a book, but she said she didn't know about the abuse, the sexual abuse, but she know about the situation with my dad, whereas I used to get beat, put in cupboards and stuff like that. And she said she used to be praying for me some days, and she said someday you're gonna be a role model of people. You're gonna change a lot of lives. And looking back now, and I've really come to the conclusion. I've said, yeah, she was right, because I'm putting myself in that position, and I don't know if she saw it coming or how she knew, but definitely makes a lot of sense.
So,
It connects. The dot connects. Yeah.
so you feel that way?
Yes, I feel that way. Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel that way too, actually. When I look back on my life and I see the things that I did, the things that I came close to doing or having trouble with or whatever, and I'm like, it didn't kill me,
Yeah.
and
Because
I'm here.
and the reason why I said that too, and I agree with you, because since I came to this country, everybody that I've trusted with what I was what I was planning on doing, whether it was the book, whether it was the little art that I'm doing, the little drawings, um, everybody has played an important role, and it seemed like everybody was just lined up there, just waiting for me to come and say, I have this, and then this next person introduced me to this person, and just to that person, and it was all like a ladder. And then Amos was just that person that was just waiting there to tell me, go forward and write this book, and this is where it came to, and
Wow.
it's amazing here.
It is amazing. I
Yeah.
want to just read, Chris put something in the chat about Amos Poe, and I'm going to read it. And if you're listening, Mr. Poe, you are a blessing. Amos Poe is an American New York City based director and screenwriter. Described by the New York Times as a pioneering indie filmmaker, Amos Poe is one of the first punk filmmakers, and his film, The Blank Generation, co directed with Ivan Krail, is one of the earliest punk films. The film featured performances by Richard Hell, Talking Heads, Television, Patti Smith, and Wayne County. So, and he's a professor at NYU, right?
Yeah, he's a film professor.
So, do you have a poem?
Do I have a poem? Yes, I got a poem that I wrote. I actually wrote this poem to a girl that I'm actually
A girl
Actually,
what? A girl what?
a girl that I'm actually talking to right now.
Uh-huh.
We're currently dating.
You're
You
casually
know,
dating?
currently
Oh my
dating. Yeah.
goodness. You're
Um,
adorable. She's never going to let you go. You
I
might let
know.
her go, but she's not going to want to let you go.
I know. I'm just looking for it. One second. Our cousin, our father. This poem I recently written to her. Um, our sister, dad had passed away, and I wrote because I wasn't able to be there physically with her, and I wrote that poem, and that she said that's the first poem she's ever getting from someone, and it was yeah she thought it was amazing. So I'm gonna read it right now.
Okay.
It says it says all right, it says somewhere she dwells. That's the poem. It's entitled Somewhere She Dwells, and it says somewhere in her heart, mind and body lingers fear, but the way she reacts to every act, even the gods would think she's fearless. In the midst of her smile, there's always a welcoming presence that tells the sun to shine today. A steady eye, a steady eyes that cares, that scares the storm away. A walk that implies she have dignity, respect, and cautions in every step she makes. In a dream, in a dream, there there's always the thoughts I observe. In wait one second. In a dream, in a dream, these are all thoughts I observe, but a gentle call for her, but a gentle call of her remarkable voice. I woke, staring into her almond-shaped, innocent eyes. I couldn't figure out whether she was asking me to save her or she was trying to save me. No, she was trying to heal me. But the thoughts of who was healing her always invaded my mind. How? How? How to? What? What might not? What if? She expressed such care and kindness. I was led to believe the gods had finally understood my wishes. Somewhere in my loneliness, I think of her. Then I think of a few words she whispers. Save me, if you wish, but it's not one of my wish. I've all I have did it all for myself since forever. As a result of caring for herself since forever, the thoughts of someone the thoughts of someone even caring was a place was placed in a place called never. As we travel deeper into the future, somewhere long gone, she was what she fears come clear and clearer to my knowledge. Time is what we want and needed, but as we try to take time becomes isolated. Time flies, making every pleasant moment temporarily. I was expected to vanish like an unsolved mystery, but knowing myself, the ambition that dwells within my veins gives up on nothing that interests me. That what led me to believe tomorrow will be hard. That would lead me to believe her tomorrow will be greater than her yesterday.
Wow. That's lovely.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you something. So you said there was trauma. So did you go to therapy? Did you have counselors and
No. I've spoken to Amos. I've spoken to his daughter. His daughter, she's a psychologist, and I've spoken to my teachers who's psychologists. I've spoken to people in the school, and but it's just like to sit with people, talk about it, and relating to the book. It really helped. It really helped.
okay. So
Yeah.
show everybody the book and tell everybody where they can get it.
Oh, so definitely you could find the book on Amazon. You could find it on Barnes and Noble. Um, I've recently found out like 2 days, like 3 days ago, I was actually Googling. I was actually Googling my name because my friend, I was in class and my friend said, "So you're author now, so you could probably Google. You probably got your author." And he Googled my name and he saw the book popped up and he Googled Out of the Jungle by Rayfield Walker, and the whole web page was just filled with the book. It's on Amazon. There's a book trailer. There's actually a book trailer that we made for the press release. There's a 1 minute video that tells the book, the whole every basically everything, the description that's behind the book. It's beautiful. So you could just Google Out of the Jungle by Rayfield Walker, and it'll take you to all the sites that it's available on.
Chris is asking a question. She said, "Are you a student at NYU now?"
No, I'm not a student. I'm actually I've just finished graduating at LaGuardia Community College where I'm finishing up, and by Thursday I'll have my diploma, and I'll be filling out the application to attend NYU in the fall. Yeah.
And when you attend NYU, you're going in as a sophomore, as a junior?
As a junior.
As a
Because
junior.
I've spent 2 years at LaGuardia, so I'm gonna continue my another 2 years to get my bachelor's at NYU.
Uh-huh. And so you want to do what?
Film. I love to write. I want to continue writing. I used to tell myself, this is the first book, and I'm probably gonna write another one, but after this book, because I used to tell myself like, okay, this book is my story. Writing this book is much easier than to formulate a story. But after writing this book, I have been having a lot of stories brainstorming in my head, and I just started writing down. And you won't believe I already have another draft that's just ready to be looked at, And that,
Wow.
so that's why I read like 10 pages a day. I'm just sitting in school because the classes, I just have these 2 last classes that I have to finish the college, and it's like hours apart. So I just sit down and I write. Right. Just, yeah.
Because to be an author, because I am a new author myself, and to be an author, everybody says you've got to write a lot and you've got to read. You have to read. So isn't it somewhat ironic that here's a man who started off not being able to read, who now is writing and can't write enough? Can't write enough, right?
I can't keep up with the ideas, They're just rushing in, It's a rush.
It's a rush.
It's a rush. It's a rush like the subway, and on the morning where it's like rush hour.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody's like in a tin. Everybody's like sausage in a tin in the train.
Right. So here's another question from Chris. She wants to know, what are your favorite authors that you admire most?
Mary Shelley Frankenstein. That was the first book I've read start to finish. I love that book. I love it. I can't express how much I love it. And she was also, Mary Shelley herself also published a book at a really young age. I think it was 16 or 19 if I'm not mistaken. But our parents was a professor in England. Her mom was also a writer. So I guess that was instilled into her. She was really writing at a young age. But the story of itself, it's still being talked at today. Maya Angelou, I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing, love that story. The Count of Monte Cristo, love that story also. And most of all, A Long Way Gone by Ishmael. I can't pronounce his last name, but it's
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, this guy is remarkable.
Yeah.
The way how he wrote that story, and the way how he articulated the story is like you're reading it, but it's like you're right there, you're seeing it because he made it so visual. He's explaining,
right?
Because it talks about like the genocide, the young boys that they turn into soldier in Rwanda, and I remember one of the scene. He was running, and this mom, there was a mother that was pregnant with her child. She was running with one of the child in her arms, and she also was pregnant with one. And she fell along in the soldiers. They used the gun and they shred her apart. They took the young son, and he was captured to be a boy soldier. Yeah. Yeah.
So, where is your mom still in Guyana? Your mom.
My mom, my mom, she came up 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so she's in New York too?
No, she's in New Jersey.
Oh, she's in
She
New
lives.
Jersey.
She lives in New
Wow.
Jersey. Yeah.
But you live with your stepmother still.
I live with my stepmother. After my stepmother's is my own place. I'm not
Wow.
going. Yeah,
She's a very special lady, isn't she?
yeah, she is. She's definitely is. She's definitely is.
And your mom lives in New Jersey. So, and you and your mom have a relationship now?
We talk every now and then.
You talk
We
every
talk.
now and then. And what about
Yeah,
your
cause that
dad?
um no, no,
No, none. But
none.
he indirectly gave you a stepmom,
Yes.
and
So
she's a
that's something good. So that's
yes.
something good he did. I
That's
thank him for
really.
that.
I mean, and
I did.
what does she do? Does she work?
Yeah, she works.
What does she do?
She she works at the airport. She works at the post office. Yes.
Mm.
She works for the United States Postal Service, and she also works for one of the airlines, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Delta.
Uh-huh. Well, she
Yeah.
is one special lady. She deserves a lot of credit, doesn't she?
Yeah, she is. She
She.
does. She does.
So I want to, before we end our show today, we just have a few more minutes. I just want to share my book because it is about um, the secrets and intimate stories that men share. And my book is called In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of Men. It is going to be a series, and the next one is about twins and millennials, and I go from there. It is on Amazon, and you can look for it at In Just One Afternoon. And I got to hear all kinds of great stories from all kinds of men from all over, and it's really astonishing as Rayfield keeps talking about having a voice. It's very
Yeah.
important, and that's what my work is all about handing over something, helping somebody somewhere have a voice, shining a light. And so I'm
Yeah.
really excited that you're here. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
No, I was going to actually say when you said shining a light, it reminded me of the Statue of Liberty. Actually the Statue of Liberty shining a light. Because when I came in, I first saw the Statue of Liberty. I felt, you know, for one moment I looked at it and it was late because I was actually in New Jersey in Liberty State Park. That's in Jersey City, and look at the Statue of Liberty, and it's like she was telling me, you know, everything that you have, every problem and every struggle and every trauma that you have encountered. Let's all put it to rest. But we're not really putting it to rest. We're resting it from your mind, but we're gonna do great with it. And that ties back also to you asking me if I believe like I was born for this, if this was meant to happen, and yeah, definitely, because yeah, you feel it. It's proceeded as though it was meant to happen. Little like you look back and all the dots is connected. I have that. I first came here, I didn't understand what I was reading, and I had this woman out at our good art. She never had to. She never had to. I used to come to school in the morning, and my dad would purposely send me to school late because he knew I used to rush to school to get breakfast. So he would keep me at home and wait till it was time exactly to go to class. But while I was sitting down taking tests with her, because I needed extra time, she would say, "You know what? Pause from your test a minute." She bought a box of cornflakes. She bought what it was cinnamon toast crunch, and she had milk in the little refrigerator. And she would always tell me to eat something. She would always bring a banana, and then we would sit down. We would read. I would look at these newspaper. I would look at all these big words that was like what, and define them, and then I would make back sentence with them, and yeah, and the journey continues, and it's just remarkable. So looking back, definitely, I think everything was meant to happen, and
Well, you're
with all
bringing
the help
tears
that,
to my eyes, really. And
and with all,
yeah. Go ahead.
and with all what, with all what had happened, and I guess yeah, it was meant to happen. It was meant to happen.
But you know what, honey? I'm we're almost out of time, but I really do honor you. You're somebody I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, but I want to keep up with you because I want you to remember me. I want you to
I
remember me.
definitely I will.
You know,
I will.
when I first spoke to you like a month ago, you know, it was like you hadn't done anything, and now look at you. Just this is what this man, this young man is like. You give him something, he tackles it completely. You know, he had not done anything. This week he's had 2 interviews, and this show today is his first one live, right?
Yeah, the first live show.
First
Yeah,
live show.
and
Go
because
ahead.
all the rest of them was like radio stations, so it's not like I was told had to look at a screen to look at anyone. So it's much I felt much more comfortable. But I told myself sit down and I told myself I said, you gotta do it. If you don't do it now, this is your moment, and if you don't take all of this moment, you're gonna let a lot of people that's waiting out there to hear your voice. You know, that's waiting out there to be inspired, and whether you like it or not, you gotta do it. And I said, I gotta do it.
See, that's the thing. Uh, we have 1 minute, hopefully, after the next, hopefully, after the next, hopefully, after the next, hopefully. So take the moments that you're in, and
Every 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 moment counts, and this is for anyone that's listening out there. No matter what situation you're in, you know, no matter how bad the situation may be, there's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of negative. There's a lot of negative, but with just a teeny inch of positive, it could spread like a bacteria. It could spread like a virus. You know, it could be just from because I what I used to do. I use my managers because they really got really super close to me, and it's not because of the book, but they read the story. They understand what I've encountered. But they said every morning you would come in and you would smile. You would make a joke. You know, you would try to uplift everybody's spirit. She said she would leave here and people that she don't really get along with or she don't really like to talk to, she would try to make them make the moment positive, you know. And she said thanks for that. She thanked me for that. And I said, you know, it's just we talk we whatever we talk about here, whatever we inspire us at this location, we both take it, or we whether it could be how much people take it, and you just take that and you reach to the next
that's
person, you reach
right.
to the next home, and you just keep it
You-
spreading.
So Rayford, just keep being yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
you just keep doing you. That's all you're gonna do is just keep doing you, and there's gonna be the next great thing, and the next great thing, and the next helping hand, and the next beautiful person in your life, and the next project, the next book, the next miracle, the next inspiration. You
yeah.
are a pleasure, and I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for reaching out to me. Thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I
Well,
appreciate it a great lot.
your grandma is looking down, and she's like saying, "Man, that's my boy." Okay.
Definitely, yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today and having this experience with us. It has been an honor and a privilege to be here with you and to get to know Rayfield, and I know it has been for you as well. Go get his book. Just keep your eye out for him because he's going to be in lights. So with that, mwah, honey, we're going to be in
Thank
touch. We
you.
want to keep up with you, okay? You'll
Thank
come
you
back
very much.
again, okay? If your schedule's not too full, because you're going to be full.
I will.
I know. All right,
My
everyone.
grandmother,
Go
my
ahead.
grandmother said, my grandmother said, always remember where you came from, whether it was bad or it was good. It started you, and whether like my situation as bad as it is, where I started out from, if it wasn't for those bad things that occurred, look at it and say, ask yourself if you would have been in, as bad as it is. You know, we gotta accept it. You know, you gotta own it.
Yep,
You know, you must own it.
that's right.
And but the main important thing is what you're gonna do next. Are you gonna let that repeat itself, or are you let that determine you and bring you down, or are you gonna put your best foot forward and say, I've been to the worst, but you know what would be greater? To know that I've been to the worst and I've become the best version of myself. And you can't beat that. Nothing could beat that.
That's it. Amen. All right. So for everybody out there, listen to what he just said. Go back and when we post this on YouTube, we post it on Facebook, wherever we post it, go back and listen to this again and be inspired continuously from this young man. With that, everybody, have a wonderful day. Rayfield will be with you. Mwah. Bye, honey. Bye, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.